All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:44. And are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I have none.
No.
Okay. Keep the agenda as is then. And then we need someone to read our communication agreement and mission statement. Does anybody have that in front of them? I can read it, but I'll be doing a lot of talking.
For once, I actually do, so I will
Go
volunteer
ahead,
to read
Jim.
it. I had 15 minutes to find it, so. Cow Pasture mission statement: connect people to the place in ways that allow recreation, exploration, collaboration, and stewardship of the cow pasture. We affirm pursuing stewardship of the cow pasture has many dimensions, including a positive group process. Thus, we adopt the following agreements for all forms of communication: verbal, written, email, etc. We value what each person has to offer. Please come prepared to participate fully. Number two, all relevant ideas are welcome. Pursuit of ideas will be based on feasibility and support of the group. Only present ideas that you are willing to carry forward personally. Three, consensus agreement will be sought. Only block consensus when you cannot live with a decision going forward. Four, seek first to understand and then respond with kindness and respect. Five, observe the 3 C's. Keep contributions concise, constructive, and connected to the group's purpose. Share the floor and be open to responses, even if you disagree. And I missed the asterisk part.
That's okay. Thanks, Jim. And the minutes were shared from the last meeting on September 7th. All right, does anybody have any amendments that they would like to make to those minutes? Okay. Hearing none, we can approve those minutes as is then. The next on the agenda was the Snowbees approval of the landowner approval form status. So just basically, Mark, he is a member of the Snowbees. He has taken on that task to go in front of City Council with the form that they need filled out by City Council, and then our copy of the T's and C's that we worked out last year or the year before that. I have not heard from him, so I don't know if he was able to do that, but I know they're probably anxious to get that approved. So I can come back to that when Chris is on to see if she's heard from him, but
yeah, I figured he would be here tonight for that, just for that purpose mainly.
yeah, I can check in with him too. Just send him an email. But yeah, I don't know where they are in terms of winter, preparing for winter. So I'm assuming they're usually pretty busy at this time of year, especially trying to get signs and stuff in the ground before everything freezes. But okay. I guess we might just wait for now, just because the next few things, future meetings, I know Chris is going to want to talk about that. So we can come back to that. Encampments. I know, Mark, you sent an email about a tent that you had found. Again, I don't know if Chris has more to say on this or not either, but
it's been removed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there are any tents up there now.
That's correct. There are none up there now.
It was just the blue one and the green one.
Correct.
Okay.
It seems to me it really hasn't been a problem.
No, the only concern about the green one, the blue one had no evidence of occupation. The green one had personal items in it, so it was unknown whether or not that was occupied or if those items had been abandoned. So, but Chris had contacted. I don't want to speak for her, but she had contacted the chief of police, and I do know because I was up there. I've been up there twice since it has been removed, and there are no other tents that I've observed.
Yeah, and by not being a problem, what I meant was there's not the proliferation of tents up there that I think we all feared after the
Mhm.
Right.
The housing situation.
Housing shut down,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There was
Yeah,
a
we had-
vehicle. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say we had found a couple tents up there a year, I think 2 years ago from Green Up Day that had been abandoned as well. So it's not unheard of, but
There had been a vehicle parked in the parking lot for several weeks, but that is no longer there either.
Yeah, you know what? I saw it parked
On
down on
Franklin Street.
Franklin Street.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too.
I
Yeah.
couldn't figure that. I mean, I've been down there a couple times today. I didn't really notice it, but I wasn't paying attention. But it just struck me as odd. It was up there for 2 weeks, and then I saw it down on Franklin Street.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Does anybody know? Did the owners move it, or well, I guess they must have, because it's not like it looked like it was towed anymore.
We saw somebody, well, sleeping in it one day, and then another day, someone reported to me that there was an individual at that vehicle with a hood up, looking as though they were trying to get it started. So
Oh,
maybe they got it started.
yep. Okay.
Didn't go very far though.
No.
All downhill from there, though.
Oh,
You know?
yes, I was gonna say it's all
All you got to
downhill.
do is give it a push, one good push, and
True.
any luck with Chris, Jeanette?
No, I gave her the link every possible way that I could think of, and I think
Mhm.
she's just having kind of computer issues with the two accounts that they're using. So they're gonna try to figure it out, and then if she needs help again, she'll call me.
Okay.
could she
You
call
can't just
in
go onto the
and-
website and click on the link.
On mobile, yeah. There's numbers
She
that you can call.
tried that, Steve, and it's not
Okay.
not doing it.
Not the
But yeah,
link.
she could call in.
I was just trying to find the number. I don't know how to do that in Zoom.
And we didn't publicize it. Did we not publicize it in the meeting minutes? Oh, we probably really need to be doing that.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Right. That's probably where it should be.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we have to remember that for next time.
Yeah. There's a bunch of them in the
Yeah, you
Uh,
might
the
have
whole
access to
setup
those
page here.
numbers, Tim. Yeah.
I think we are able to invite her though. Oh no, you can only invite on email apparently. In Teams, you can invite somebody with their phone number.
my phone likes to occasionally send random image things that I have in here. Sorry for that on the group
What?
text. Yeah.
Well, the
Oh,
group
no.
texts are going to my email, which is just really weird.
Yeah,
Oh.
when I do the drop down, it has your email there instead of your phone number.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
That's right. Now I have Tim's number, so
Sorry, I'm about to send you like 5 messages to your email then.
Yeah. And you sent me a sticker, Tim.
Oh, there she is. Yeah, I know. That was my phone being weird. She's here.
Chris, she's here. Okay.
we were at a spot where we couldn't really go any further without her. So
I know. I was like, we kind of have like a lot of talking points next, and I know she has
things.
stuff to say.
Yeah.
She's here.
Hey,
And I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Final hurdle, the mute button.
It's gotten
There.
everyone so far.
Sorry about that. This
Hey, that's
looks
hi,
okay.
Chris.
different. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Glad you're able to finally get on with us.
Yeah.
Is that the wrong link, or was it like what was going on?
I went to the city website like I always do, click on the agenda and clicked
Mhm.
on the link to that. And it kind of let me in and said, your host will be, with you shortly. And then I started texting you, because I didn't see you on. And so apparently the link that is in the agenda, which is the same agenda that I sent all of you, is off. So
Well, I got in using that.
So did I.
did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
Oh, Oh, well, I don't know. I have no explanation
Yeah. The beauty of Zoom.
then.
And just to catch you up, Chris, we started on some of the agenda items and basically got down to future meetings because at this point we figured this is something we wanted as many people here for. Regarding the Snowbees landowner form, have you heard anything from Mark?
First of all, is somebody taking the minutes? I'll be glad to if you could tell me what the call to order, the time was.
5:44.
What time?
5:44.
Okay.
There were no adjustments to the agenda, and the minutes were approved as is.
Okay,
And Jim read the communication and mission statement.
great. And so I have not heard from Mark. It's been very strange because when I got back from out west, I called him and then I followed up with an email just asking, if he was getting the agreement in front of the city council, and I didn't hear back from him at all. And then I texted him. I finally got our updated contact information and sent it to him. And then I sent him, another message saying, how, any issues with the city. And I never heard back from him on any of those outreaches. So it was by email, by phone. Hope he's okay.
Yeah.
Is he's on the committee, right?
Yeah.
Still?
And so I sent, and he didn't send, he usually doesn't send any responses to changes of agenda. So I wasn't surprised I didn't hear from him when I sent out the agenda. But
Yeah, he pretty consistently shows up. And I
Yeah.
thought he would be here for the Snowbees discussion for sure, given the timeliness of it.
and like I said, it was like early October, like October 8th, that I started sending him, like, hey, sorry, I haven't gotten the updated contact information to you that gets attached to the approval form. And I said, and just questions, how's it going, and are you in front of the council, and nothing, no responses to anything.
I don't mind. I mean, it sounds like email isn't going to be the greatest way to reach him. I don't know if I have his number, but maybe I'll reach out to the Snowbees directly, not to go over him, but just to check in and see if they can provide an update on where we're at with cow pasture, but also if they've heard from Mark, because yeah, I don't know if something happened.
I have his number because it's on the Snowbees contacts paper.
Okay.
You can get it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can try to reach out to him if that's all right. If you don't mind, Chris.
Yeah. And I think that I think everything should be good to go, except that, there was an issue last year with them not posting the cow pasture property with the slow and sensitive zone signs. And there was a misunderstanding. Apparently, Mark did the Perrin property, Hood property, but didn't cross the line into the cow pasture. So he was at the last meeting. My recollection was that he was going to talk to, I forgot the guy's name, and find out if he was going to do it, or, who was going to take care of the actual cow pasture property and open the fence and make sure that it was secured. So that was at our last meeting.
I have a quick comment. And I was just looking at the Snowbees contacts updated 11/2023, and Mark's email address is wrong on that, just so you know. I'm not saying that you were sending emails to that wrong address, but it should probably be fixed on that. There's a I in VT. It was VIT instead of VT.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll correct that. But I wouldn't have used that one. It would have been a pop-up from, my computer. So I wouldn't have used that because I haven't.
No, that's how I confirmed it. Was the agenda one has the correct email address.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, I'll see what I can find. If he doesn't answer his phone number, then I'll reach out to someone else on the Snowbees just to see what's going on. But okay. We also did talk about encampments briefly. Mark gave an update on the tents that he had seen in the cow pasture. Basically, they've been removed. It appeared that someone may have been occupying one of them. And then there was a car that was parked out there for a few weeks that we're unsure if it was, related to the tents or if it was just a broken down vehicle. But
Right. So I've been in communication with Mark, so with that, but is there anything of significance to note in the minutes?
Maybe that they've been removed.
I'm gonna have to peel away. Sorry I can't stay for the whole meeting, but it's good to see you all again. I'll try to make the next one.
thanks,
Hey,
Steve.
Thanks,
Steve,
Steve.
while
Yes.
you're in on this meeting, would you happen to know, it's a side question. I think it's okay that I ask this, but there was an assessment done on the cost, what it would cost to develop a road to the Ford properties at the end of Maplewood Avenue, the ones on Duffy behind the Brissette's house. And Bill Ahern did that. And he came up with and I'm thinking that would be an important piece of information to give the anyone doing the assessment of
Yeah.
that property. Do you know where that would be, and
I don't know that I ever saw it, and I have to assume it was something that Bill put together. I
Yes.
tell you what, I'm more than happy to call Brian Baker. There's probably, Bill's replacement. There's probably a slim chance that he knows where it is. And if he doesn't, I'll give Bill a call and see if Bill can tell us where to find it.
that would be awesome, because I already did call Brian and he said that he would look into it. And I told him why we were interested in it. I suspect the appraised value of the property is going to be higher than what we put in the grant. And so it would be nice that if the appraiser really knew that these lots, based on the other lots on Maplewood Avenue, these lots do have a significant cost incurred. And so I've already reached out to Brian in about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and he hasn't got back to me. And I've been
Well, it's ironic because I met with Brian a couple days ago on something else, so we just barely missed it. But I can give him a call and just, hey, I know you were going to look for it. Could you find it? If you can't, I'll volunteer to get a hold of Bill.
that
The
would
only
be
other
awesome.
comment I have is I saw somewhere in the minutes that Janet was having a hard time getting an appraiser. I just had our properties appraised here, well, actually in the spring, but it's an appraiser that I've used a number of times over the years for privately. But if Janet is having a hard time getting somebody, have her give me a call. I can work with her to see if and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but if he would be
Apparently
available.
she did recently said somebody came in our office, a woman that she's worked with, and she said she begged her and that she was going to do it.
Oh, okay,
that was
no
as
problem.
of like last week. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I had a possible fallback if that was a dead end. So
okay, we'll keep that in mind. And I think
keep
Mark
it in mind. If you need it, fine. If you don't, no problem.
That's awesome, because I was going to call Bill Ahern, but his number's not listed and I don't have his contact information. So if you could follow up, I think that that's going to be a key piece of information that the appraiser could use to differentiate between a
I'll do.
property.
Give me a week or so, but I'll try to get that.
Thank you. I really
Okay.
appreciate that.
We'll see everybody later.
Oh, thanks for chiming in.
Yeah. Take care.
Very helpful.
Yep. Bye.
See you, Steve. Okay. Was there anything on, I don't think we had anything more on encampments really to mention. So, no, okay. Next on the agenda was discussion about the future of our meetings, Zoom versus in person. Chris, do you have any information on that? Because I'll be honest, I wasn't totally following all of the requirement changes that happened.
Yeah, as I understood it, and I was hoping for other people's read on it, but we have to record the meeting unless it's in the cow pasture, if we're physically there. Nicholas actually listed the cow pasture as an example of like a meeting that you don't have to record. Or if you're in a place that doesn't have the ability to, I don't know if it's record, that you don't have to record. So I was just wondering if, and I don't know how, how you can, I don't know. I was just wondering what your take on that wording was. I read it 2 or 3 times and it didn't seem to make sense, because any place has internet, public space.
I thought the minutes are supposed to be like a recording of the meeting.
Oh, have you been recording?
Yeah, I have been.
So I just looked into if we wanted to meet in person and not record, I thought that maybe the library would be that place. And, I looked into that, but I just don't know if people are just happy with just meeting with Zoom and recording, or if there's an option to meet in person and not record. Would we rather go that route?
I'm okay continuing on Zoom in the winter at least, and then when we move back to being able to be in the cow pasture, that works for me.
I'm reading it
agree.
as if you use Zoom, it needs to be recorded.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was reading too far into it. It just seemed that there was a loophole in that. But so we'll continue meeting on Zoom, and this time I'm assuming still works for everyone.
Yep.
Okay, good.
And do we have to manage the recordings or anything, or because this is a city account, it just automatically uploads it to their files and that's it?
Yes.
Great.
I don't think
Just
they had
good
done
enough.
anything with them previously, but there was instructions that it will get uploaded and processed by somebody. So.
Great.
Yeah, there was an icon. I remember in the training there was like icons for the recordings, but I think the city wasn't quickly uploading them or something. I think it's in the hands of the city staff though.
Okay. Next on the agenda was hunting and trapping within city limits. Was there new information to share on that?
Well, Jeanette, I think it was after our last meeting, asked, and we were posting the signs up in the cow pasture, and she raised the question of how about hunting and trapping in city limits, because basically the no hunting is driven by a city ordinance that says you're not allowed to discharge a firearm in the city. So unless you get approval by the city police, and so we discussed that in a previous meeting. So, and the chief of police said, well, if you really wanted to clean up that language, you would, we would write an ordinance, and the committee decided that we just would leave it as that and not worry about it. So I called the chief to follow up with Jeanette's question, which is a good one. I called the chief of police and at Brad Vale and asked him, what is the regulations on trapping and bow hunting? And he didn't know the answer to that. So he was going to look into it and get back to me to see if there was anything in the city ordinance about trapping within city limits and bow hunting within city limits. Because I think it's kind of not addressed in city ordinance. So, and I haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris, for asking. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought there was something on Front Porch Forum, and Jeanette, I don't know what triggered your question, but if it was related to a Front Porch Forum post that someone's cat had apparently been caught in some kind of a trap, and its skin peeled off, or it didn't sound
Yeah,
very nice. So I was wondering if that's what triggered your question, Jeanette, if there's like
Yeah.
people trapping in the city.
Well, I don't know if people are necessarily trapping in the city, but leg traps are something that's always on my mind. And when I heard about hunting in the city, it came to mind, and it was probably just because I'm always worried about that. With the dogs off leash and over in Groton.
Yeah. So is there is there something, and I'll reach out, and I think it's been, I didn't note the date that I contacted him, but I think it's been at least a couple of weeks ago. It was soon after we spoke, Jeanette, and I think that was a couple of weeks ago at least. But is there any, should we be proactive? Is there anything that, at this point in time, if there is nothing in regulation for bow hunting and trapping, is that something the committee would like to push as an agenda, an ordinance along with
yes.
no hunting, versus no discharge of firearm? At the time we thought that was just a hornet's nest, and why poke it if we didn't have to?
And it still is. So that would be a hornet's nest. And I don't know if we've heard that it is an issue, and maybe it isn't an issue, and maybe we should consider talking about it again if it becomes something. Like if we hear that it is an issue, maybe then we have to consider it. But right now, I don't know. I haven't heard from anybody in the city that it's happening, or in Front Porch Forum or whatever. So I didn't mean to open that can of worms, but I guess it
I
is a
would be
can of
curious to
worms.
know what is allowed and what isn't,
Yes.
or what's a gray area based on
Yeah.
city policy. But other than that, I would agree, Jeanette. If it hasn't been a problem, I say don't worry about it. Maybe there is
Mhm.
one or two people up there, but if they're doing it, if it's safe and people are wearing orange and it hasn't been an issue.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be careful about trapping, because a lot of people, I use have a heart traps all the time to
Mhm.
trap raccoons in my backyard and stuff like that, and then take them out. And
Mhm.
so we don't want to prohibit that, right? We
No.
want to prohibit
Leg traps, really.
Traps.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just Googled it and I found the zoning ordinance of Barre City, and I actually don't understand what this means. But there is something in there about things being exempt from zoning, and then I don't understand it, but it does talk about hunting, fishing, and trapping as specified under 24 VSA 2295 on private or public land. So it sounds like there is something in the zoning ordinances, but my interpretation of it is at a total loss because it's very lawyer talk. So it might just be something like to follow up with city staff again and maybe point them towards this.
Well, if it's what number VSA is it?
24.
24. So that sounds like it's in statute. So I'm happy to look up what's in statute. So it looks like that might be referring back to statute.
Okay.
So I can research that a little bit and see if maybe it defers to what the General Assembly came up with there.
That would be great.
Okay, I'll put it
I
on my
put it,
list.
I put a link to it in the chat,
Okay,
and the location of it on page 9, number 14. So you might be able to understand it better than I do.
okay, thanks.
And so should I just hold off on contacting Brad?
Yeah, I think we have more important, more urgent things that we need to hound them about, and I mean the city staff in general. So I probably would put this one at the bottom of the list, and I can poke around and see if I can research it myself.
Sure.
Which
And
I
I
should
just
have
want,
done to start with. So sorry about that. Thank you.
well, yeah, no, it's, I'm really glad that you brought it up because, and I think Brad should be aware of it too, that it is a
Hmm.
gray area because, you know, along river corridors, people could be setting leg hold traps, you know, for all we know. So it's
Mhm.
it's a really good question, and we just never thought of it. Um, but I do want to update. I did have a conversation with Peggy Hood, and I said, you know, basically um, said, you know, this is really none of my business, but you know, I just want to let you know we're posting the sign by, you know, the entrance to your property. And I said, you know, do you allow hunting, you know, on your property? And she said, yeah, we have in the past, and I think that there is still somebody that lives up in the development up in Barre town above above the high point in that neighborhood that still bow hunts on her property. So it's you know, it's, there is hunting nearby. She said up at one point in time she thought that there was 3 different people that were hunting there, but that her mother would allow hunting. So she does allow it.
There was another comment on that Facebook post, by the way, from last year, when someone else had, I think this was in like the summer they responded, but they just said, you know, something along the lines of, I had hunted up there for years. Nothing of too much significance, but that's a good point about bow hunting, because you know, when you say hunting, it can encompass a lot of different forms. So,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jeanette. Any other comments, questions on hunting and trapping? All right, I'm going to move on then. Next on the list is committee positions and initiatives.
I put that on there. You know, I don't even know what the rules are. Maybe someone else does. I just keep chugging along as cow pasture chair, but you know, I don't know if there's a term limit that if every few years, if anyone else is interested in these positions, and how, you know, and co-chair, I think are the only 2 named positions that we have. Technically, we're supposed to have a named secretary. It's the city rules on committees. But does does anyone have knowledge of what that process is, or
No, but they just updated it recently, didn't they? That because Nicholas shared like a Word doc that kind of highlighted committee activities.
no? I don't remember seeing that.
That was in the document about recording meetings, I think. Is that right, Tim? It's a
Maybe.
city council policy on municipal bodies and appointments. And that was linked
That
from,
sounds right. Yeah.
that was linked from the email Nicholas sent us about the requirement to record meetings.
I didn't do my homework. I didn't read down that far on it, so I can look at it, and if there's something specific that we need to be doing as far as elections for positions, I'll make sure that that's unless you're seeing anything, you're reading it, Jim, as we talk.
Trying to scanning it. I don't see anything that really addresses that other than membership terms being defined, expiration dates defined for all seats. Policy encourages staggered 2 to 3 year terms for standing committees, but I don't think it addresses positions and things like that.
Okay. I can look into it just to make sure that, you know, there's nothing that there's nothing that I should there's something that I should be aware of in that regard. Is anyone dying to be the committee chair? Co-chair?
No,
That's what I thought.
You're doing a great job, Chris.
you're great. You're great, Chris. I have my hands full with many other things too, so.
So the other part of that was initiatives. And I just keep thinking of a lot of things, you know, and I know that the subcommittee is really focused on the URSA grant coming up. But with a couple of new people on the committee, I was wondering if there was some other subcommittees that could be formed to work independently and move some initiatives that were identified in the management plan. And you know, one of them in specifically was invasive removal. I know Suzanne asked if she could be pulling up invasives in the cow pasture, and I was like, go for it, kind of thing, you know, when she's walking. And so I specifically reached out to her since she couldn't be at the meeting this evening, and told her that what I was thinking, that maybe if she was interested, that her and somebody else on the committee that might be interested could be kind of a subcommittee to promote you know, get more community input and help with doing invasive removal on kind of a year-round basis. I know we do it on Green Up Day, but we just kind of are scratching the surface. And there was talk, and I don't know if it was just with a conversation with the forester when I walked the property years ago with him, the county forester at the time. He said, you know, some groups like this have, like, you know, adopt a section or adopt a species, and you know, they have different groups doing different areas. So I mentioned, Tim, that you had actually, you know, and Suzanne was happy to do something like that, but she said, you know, all I know are the ones that have been in my yard that I've been dealing with, you know, which are like buckthorn and buckthorn and winged euonymus, and so she knew those enough. So but you know, I mentioned that, Tim, you might be interested in working with her on that, since you had taken interest in it, and I think you went to like 3 or 4 training sessions online during, I guess it must have been during COVID, on invasive removals, and working with her to get some kind of public, you know, involvement
Mhm.
in progressing, you know, those our efforts in trying to remove invasives.
Yeah, yeah. I did do 2 separate trainings on that, and they were kind of pushing people to, you know, become their own leaders in that field, which was cool. And I think we had some talks about ideas we had, and my life got really busy, so I didn't complete any of those. But yeah, I guess I would be interested. I can definitely, I know where some of those online resources are that the state issues, so there isn't any concern about doing things the wrong way or whatnot. But I know that in terms of, at least my understanding was that in terms of like other spaces to focus on, the cow pasture is relatively low priority as far as the state goes. So aside from like maybe some questions here and there, we're not going to get like any serious funding or anything, but still something that we could gather local community members for. Jeanette.
Yeah.
So Chris, were you, just to clarify, were you really looking more to Suzanne and Tim as sort of volunteer coordinators, taking on sort of a volunteer coordinator role, and then having more regular volunteer groups? Or are you thinking like a once, twice a year call to the community that would be led by Tim and Suzanne, or Tim or Suzanne, where, you know, there's a meeting at the entrance and then have at it, here's what you're looking for? What
I
were
think
you
that would
thinking?
kind of, I think that would kind of be driven by Tim and Suzanne, or whoever wants to, you know, what they feel like doing,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and coming to the committee and saying, you know, this is, you know, this is what we're thinking. And it could be something that, you know, you get enough volunteers where they have, you know, the stone fence along the Hood property, and they go after buckthorn, or, you know, something that they're comfortable with, so that they don't do more damage than good, making sure, and so that they could be, you know, possibly going up there, and they adopted that, and so every time they go in that area, they might go for a walk up there, and then they focus on their section. So I think that like Tim mentioned, that there's probably a lot of different ways to get community members engaged in that, and I would kind of leave it up to them to see what they're comfortable with, or what they can manage, and what their ideas are.
Thanks. Yeah, that sounds good.
And so the other, you know, another thing that I thought, you know, maybe Mark, you might be interested in, if not the invasive stuff. I know you're a hands-on kind of person, and the other thought I had was, you know, just and this might be too much like what your work life used to be like. You might not be interested in it, but just somebody to kind of like follow up and pursue, you know, what's going on with the Johnson Street, you know, that little piece of land that's being leased to the adjacent landowner, and like thinking of a way to get like the city to just, you know, find out, you know, I haven't heard any update on what happened with that, if they sent out a tax bill and they signed it, or what's going on with that. And I know it's not a huge priority, but you know, just kind of focusing on kind of access to the cow pasture, and the Johnson Street extension would be one, and then also concern over the two house, now that we have the Ford property, the parking lot in between the two houses on Johnson Avenue, that's actually, you know, a right of way, and making sure that gets protected.
Yeah, well, I'm interested enough to have a conversation with you about it. You know, about like specifics in terms of what, you know, what the objective would be, what we could do. You know, so yeah, I'd be happy to talk further about
Yeah.
that.
But if there's anything else that you think that, you know, that would be more of interest, you know, because I think the key, you know, I think it's really nice having the subcommittee with the URSA, because we can meet, we don't have to record, you know. I think you can only have 3 members is the max for a 7-member committee, to be able to function as a subcommittee. But I just think it's a nice way, you know. I think it's worked really well with the URSA grant, that, you know, we get to not have to have a conversation or a meeting with the whole committee, but keep the committee up to date, and request whenever there's a decision. You know, we don't make decisions on our own, but bring it to the committee when there is a decision to be made.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bit of a side question about the Johnson Street access. If that's leased, do pedestrians that use the cow pasture still have a right of way that they can go through that parking lot? Because I always feel funny when I walk across that parking lot, because it's like you're walking on somebody's driveway, right? So even if they lease it, do we still have the right of way? Do we know?
So that particular parcel isn't being leased. The one that's right on, so the one that is on Johnson Avenue, that goes, I think I showed you where it was, Jeanette, you know, that goes up, then it goes onto the park. That piece of property isn't leased. It's just being used
As a driveway.
Somebody's property. But the
Okay.
city does have a, you know, right away up through there to that street. And I
Okay.
don't know the legal issues with it, but I think it's a city right away. Much like the one, like if you go to Johnson Avenue at the end of it, where it crosses Maplewood Avenue, and you look across and there's that white fence and the
Yes,
cedar
yeah.
wall. That's the parcel that's leased.
Okay.
And I'm not clear on it. You know, if you look at two different maps, it shows that there might be like a footpath on the side of it that isn't leased. You know, the two different maps have different demarcations on them.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's that particular lease is all the way to the next property and that we don't have any right away or not. And then
Okay.
there's the issue with behind it. It looks like somebody has paved a driveway on the city property and is now blocking it. So I think at our last meeting, you know, that it seems like it's hard to backpedal.
Yeah.
And although Carol thought that, you know, her opinion was that would be a good approach. But at the minimum, I think that we should be pursuing a right of way through there, no matter what the scenario is, so that people can jump on that beautiful trail sooner, you know, rather than having to walk all the way up to the end of Maplewood Avenue.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
It also accesses from the end of Sheridan Street too, right?
Yeah, and that is, and that is city, you know, I think we discussed that, you know, where I thought long clippings were being, I thought that was all city land, but there is a parcel that is owned by one of the persons at the end of Sheridan. He bought that. It's kind of all ledge. It's a beautiful little section of trail there, but that, you know, that is protected, and it's a clear right of way up through there.
I've never been up there. Would somebody be interested in taking me up there sometime where those access points are in that trail behind those houses? So off Sheridan, or do I just go up Sheridan and go straight into the woods?
I would be glad to show you. There's like, you
Okay.
know, there's just where Quinlan and Sheridan come, there's like a little stretch that that's there. And you know, I think that that's city-owned street. Actually, I spoke with someone on Quinlan, and she said she tried to get the city to pave a street through there so that they wouldn't have to drop down onto I forget the name of the main street there.
Merchant.
And the city wasn't willing to do it at the time or something, but I could see where people would not want to go down that steep section, and if they could just zip right through there, they could. So there's that, and then there's another side trail at the end of Quinlan that goes through private property. That's kind of an awesome trail. Mike and I do a loop in the pasture a lot of times. We drop down onto Quinlan, walk Quinlan, and then walk up the paper street, the Duffy paper street. But those are nice little, it gives you a nice little loop.
Yeah, so I'll be in touch with you then. That would be great. Thank you.
All right, well, that's all I had, and I don't know if anyone else had any other ideas on initiatives or things that would be more important than, you know, invasives or anything else that
if Susan is interested and you want to put me in touch with her. Oh wait, she's the other person on the committee. I knew I was forgetting somebody.
Is it Susan or Suzanne?
Susan.
Susan. Oh, okay. I was following Chris's lead.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
Susan. All right.
I can reach out to her.
She doesn't like Sue.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, that, you know, Tim, you could like just reach out to her and have a conversation and maybe put your heads together, and maybe at the next meeting, you know, I could add that as kind of an update. And you can let us know what you think. Okay.
Yeah, I would think at least a minimum we can continue. We can at least continue, you know, the regular green up day that we like to do, and reaching out to the Career Center to have them engaged in the spring.
Well, you know what? Does everyone not know this? Apparently, they stopped that whole program. So there is no I don't know what Stephanie's doing, but they discontinued that program, which is really sad.
Hmm.
So there will be no group. I don't, I can't imagine. I think she was saying that they're pushing more for like electric, automotive, electric kind of, hands-on skills, and they dropped that program.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, I'll reach out to her and we'll figure some stuff out.
Great.
All right. I didn't hear any other positions or initiatives. Sounded like. Just want to make sure before we move on.
No, I think we're going to have our hands full with the Ursa
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah.
Okay. Great segue into one of our updates.
Oh, where to start?
Well, it's the 1292 violation that was the wastewater facility broken pipe issues was settled. They finally signed
good.
off on it. That was what was holding up our grant. There was some discussion about whether that was even legitimate for them to hold up the grant based on that, but we'll just let that go. So yeah, I think it's settled. I think everyone has signed the proper documentation. The state agreed, or the city agreed to the state's requests for the fines. And I think that was the last I heard. I think it's still in various city staff's hands to get some documents to Forest Parks and Rec. And I have not heard anything else from there. And maybe Chris knows more about that, but I'm guessing she's probably in the same boat.
Yeah, so I think I forwarded to the subcommittee Jeanette's email that basically, hash that out. She has to make sure that hopefully I did. It was
you did.
A week ago, exactly. I think I was wondering, it seems like it was several weeks ago, but I looked and it was a week ago. So she was needing to make sure she sent the right paperwork and to clear everything up. But with that said, Becca had also emailed, and I think I forwarded that and said it looked like, they were ready to go. So that was only a week ago. So hopefully the city has something in their hands within, I hate to keep pestering people, but I just
You have to.
yeah. So I think maybe on I'll wait until Monday and then just email Becca, or maybe I'm going to keep Becca in the loop. I think Becca and Janet, and say, has the city received it yet? It's been,
Yeah, next week is, sorry, I was going to say next week's a pretty quiet week for state people. So if you email her on Monday, you might not hear back for a little while.
With Thanksgiving.
Oh,
a lot of people taking that week off. Did they say that they would give us the extension? They did say that. Okay.
Becca said
so
that
we have a verbal agreement.
So
good.
Yeah, I went behind. I forget who. Janet was thinking that we should wait until we get the grant and then request it. So I took the initiative to let's.
Yeah, good move there. Because I think if we went into the grant not knowing that we would have an extension, that changes everything, hiring the trail people and whatnot, and spending the money, timeline, whatever. So the three of us should probably get together based on that new timeline and kind of adjust the timeline we came up with and priorities and kind of move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I probably need to review that grant application and see what we even have in store. It's been a while since I've looked at any of it.
Yeah,
I know. And I think the RFP, would probably, we had dates in there. My recollection is that we said like within the first 3 months that we would have the property acquired, and that was the number one priority, that they asked us to spell out you know, what we would be doing. And I think we were pretty specific, you know, with, you know, the first 3 months, and then the first year, and then the next year in the grant, which was also kind of reflected in the RFP too.
Right. Did we, when we met just recently about the RFP, did we put the new date in there assuming that we would get it, or did we not put the new date in there? Because we would have to put the new date in there because that changes things, I think.
I think we highlighted it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I thought we highlighted it and said this has to be the new, what new date, meaning, yeah, no,
The extension?
no,
okay.
no, we didn't do that. 'Cause
Okay,
it
so
was
we,
mostly within the last like 4 or 5 weeks that I asked.
yeah, I thought maybe our wishful thinking, we had maybe made a note in the RFP that we might get an extension or whatever, so we should probably make sure that Janet has the most recent version of the RFP that has the date, because that extension changes the RFP due date as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, so we should do that. And even if we just have a call, the three of us, just to make sure that we adjust that RFP.
Well, Janet was going to bounce it back to me. Did I forward that email? I thought that I did.
You did, and I think there was some question about whether she had the right version. Let me just look.
Oh, it was just recently, like within the last
Yeah,
week.
yeah, it was November 8th.
Yeah, I think I don't think I think she had the right version, but she was just questioning, you know, what to do with, you know, she said, I thought we were done with this. And my response was, well, I think everything that we asked for revisions and questions was what the city attorney had added in there, you know, with the combination of the Hope
The
Cemetery.
properties.
So I thought that basically everything that we had as far as changes in there or questions was based on, you know, what was modified by the attorney. And so I think her
Yeah.
response was, and I, you know, my response to her is like, yes, let's just keep the language simple. Don't, for everyone else's information, apparently the attorney looked at the RFP, and all of a sudden the RFP and not only included the cow pasture, but it included Hope Cemetery with like a line, you know, saying that the road Route 14 separates, you know, this property. And we're like, why is the Hopes? That's not even, you know, it's the wrong. It's not even zoned that different. They're zoned differently, you know. And so our question was, you know, why did he do that? Combine it to, like, you know, what was it, 120 or 150 acres instead of just the cow pasture property. And apparently the lawyer looked back, and that the old deed was for the whole parcel. So he was, you know, the Hope Cemetery and the cow pasture. So he was defining it as that. And hopefully it's going to clean it up and just not be specific and get rid of all that really confusing
That's what
language.
she said. I'm looking at her August 16th email. She said, I would think that we can, at least in the RFP, allude to the current 75-acre property, plus the newly acquired Eastman property.
Yep. So,
So
okay, so
she's
she'll,
okay with getting rid of that Hope Cemetery part because it doesn't make any sense.
yeah. Okay.
Yep. Why don't we make a plan to get together in, I don't know, like early December or something?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, that sounds good. And in the meantime, I guess I'll continue, you know, early on next week, I'll reach out and ask if we've received anything, and ask if, you know, ask Janet to send, you know, to, you know, an update on the assessment, you know, to, you know, and the RFP. So just for everyone's information, I don't know if you know this or not, but properties purchased with federal monies you have to offer them the appraised value on the property. And so it is a concern of mine that the appraisal on the properties, the parcels behind the Brissette house that we're purchasing, that the asking price was 15,000. What was that, 2 years ago, almost 3 years now? That will significantly change based on the sale of those parcels at the end of Maplewood Avenue, which would totally send us for a spin if the appraisal comes in higher and we have to offer that. Then I think we had a 10% upcharge on, we added to the bottom of the line of our request, but I think it could be exceed that. I think that the land, it was 15,000 for the land. We put that in as a hard number. So there might be some modifications that we're going to have to request for the grant, because
Mhm.
I think the priority should be the purchase of the land, and I don't know what that'll mean.
Is there any contingency within that if the property owner offers you a bargain sale so that, it's less than the assessed value or the appraised value? I mean, that happens. That's not uncommon in certain legal situations that I've dealt with in the past, but I don't know, because this is a federal grant or federal grant, but it might be something worth looking into.
I think Mike, who's worked with them, said that you have to offer it. They could,
Oh,
you have to
Okay.
offer it.
But then they can come back with a bargain sale price, saying a less price,
Yes.
price, because there are tax advantages for them to do that. So
Yes.
also, I think maybe I'm just, trying to see the upshot of this, or Pollyanna here. That property is less buildable, right, than those other 3 lots. Like, it's on ledge, it sits on a hillside. So any appraiser worth their money will probably not use those 3 lots as a comp. Or
they have they have to take into consideration the specifics that are unique to the property that's being appraised. So,
yeah. So
Now,
it's not like you're just going to build something there, because it's a little bit harder than those 3 lots that have been cleared. I'm hopeful that won't trip us up too badly.
And that's why I also want to make sure that they know, like the realtor at the time when the lots went up for sale, they were grabbing the whole paper street and saying you could clear these trees, down the slope and have a beautiful view. And I was like, no, so I want to make sure because there's no pins or obvious markers there. I want to make sure that the appraiser knows what's there, and also is aware of that piece of information that Bill Ahern put together on how much it would cost, because the other properties, the water sewer is right there. It's like curbside. And this one, they have to develop, I think Bill said, like a 40-foot wide road or a 30-foot wide road to get to the house. They wanted to just put a driveway, and he said, no, you're gonna have to put a pump station to get the water sewer out, to get it to, so there was a significant cost to developing those lots, but I don't know if anyone else is aware of it. Steve, I think, was aware of it, but I'm not even sure he was. I forget what he said. I know he's going to look into it. And Brian was going to try to find that paperwork, but I think we should have that, in hand to give to the assessors, so that it's pretty black and white, that they're not apples to apples, those lots.
That's been fun. That took a
Yeah,
long
thanks
time.
for the update. I mean, hey, it's good news, right? It was,
Yeah,
it seemed
we'll
pretty
get
bleak
there.
The last update I had heard, I was like, oh man, really? But
We'll be so worn out by the time we get the money that we're just going to be like, okay.
We're done. We'll assign a new subcommittee.
Yeah. Rest up, people.
so this is kind of a flexible section here. We already talked about a lot of these updates. I'm not going to go through each one, but is there anyone in particular that someone would like to discuss or bring up? These have kind of been like our just postponed topics.
I was too busy doing a flood relief t-shirt project to focus on this one, so I'm gonna not give an update.
It's
Keep
good
postponing.
practice.
And you know what, honestly, what I'm thinking is if the, this coming year, we're not gonna have the, high school kids there, the career center children, young adults there, is, you know, I'll touch bases with Stephanie and find out what has happened or if there's another
Mhm.
program. So there's, you know, that was our idea, that the t-shirts could be given out to that specific group is high on the list, and they're not going to be on the property next year as far as I can tell. So
Okay, so there's no rush.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
we might be able to, that Semper Bond money, I thought that that might have to be used to do a match if we get put into a corner, you know,
Yeah.
of that. So we
Right.
kind of be stingy.
Yeah, we should probably wait until we know what the deal is before we spend any biggish money on that.
I do have one update that I don't think it was under, um, actually, it's not even on here, but I'll just quickly say that I did follow up and buy a shovel with the snow bees, get $25 gift certificate. We do, there was no account on RK Miles, but I had Carol reinitiate that. It has my name on it so that only I can charge on that account. So I think the shovel was like $48, so $24 or whatever, was will be coming out of the Semper Bond money. So the committee now has a polar bear and a shovel that I've been storing at my house, but hopefully we'll find a place that maybe the cemetery building that once, and if we get tools, I could see the tools being a line item that could be dropped if we need more money for the property. But hopefully we could store those in a more centralized location. So they could be available also to other groups like the River Access Group if you're doing trails or something like that.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Any other updates or just anything else in general? I can open it up to any last thoughts.
Actually the fenced enclosure cleanup, I just feel like I keep, and maybe I should keep it with this subcommittee. But it would sure be nice to have, and I guess I can do that, just to make sure that the city's on top of that this year. The fenced enclosure has nothing to do with the grant, but the building of the road and clearing that does. So I just want to really make sure that the jump on that early this coming year. So I guess I'll keep that on my plate.
Yeah, I feel like once we get into the grant and the actual work starts to happen, we'll have, some people out in the woods and have the city doing some of the things that they've committed to. It'll be a good time to get up there and work on that situation, however they're going to.
Yeah.
So where is this fenced enclosure area?
Just if you're walking, you go down the hill to the stream crossing.
At 14? Or
I'm not going to be able to explain this.
is it just where the fence is, like on Fort to go down to 14? Is that the one
No.
you're?
No, you can't really see it unless you're looking for it. But yeah, if you cross the stream on the main trail,
Right.
And then you come up, there's a trail going off to the left that goes toward Route 14, and there's a little chain link fence enclosure there.
Okay, and that's within the cow pasture? I never
Yes.
realized that. Okay, I for some
Yeah.
reason was not aware
No,
of
you kind of have to look for it because it's all overgrown.
Yeah.
And I tried showing it to Josh on one of our recent hikes and I couldn't find it, and then somebody else showed it to me. So it's, even when you're looking for it, it's kind of hard to find.
And what's the
Think so,
purpose of the
yeah.
enclosure?
Sludge.
Sewage sludge.
Oh,
Yeah, that
And
was a
it-
dumping site.
okay, all right.
There's a lot of plastic and things of that sort mixed in with it, and most of it has kind of just been covered with organic growth and leaf fall. But if you dig into the ground a little bit, it's just a lot of mostly plastic. I don't think the
Mhm.
sludge is an issue at this point. It was a long time ago that they used to go up there and dump their wastewater facility
Oh,
junk
nice.
in the woods.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's like feminine hygiene products, remnant, like the
We don't
stuff that
need
doesn't break
details. Yeah,
down.
sludge
No.
is a great, yeah, that's all. I need.
Well,
Pretty
we didn't
powerful
know
word.
at the time, and it was actually one of the prior committee members who knew an older couple who lived on Quinlan Avenue, and we asked, her, it's like, and she was, this older woman said, oh, the city was driving up there and dumping sludge, and for us it was like, phew, it's just sludge, it's not like hazardous waste or something.
Right.
So that
Not
was,
anymore.
good, it was like, and yeah, so we didn't even bring in the fence removal as part of the grant because we didn't want to raise red flags.
Mhm.
I think the city agreed to deal with it, didn't they?
Brian, I made sure that he was aware of it, and he said he had this is before the flood or anything, and he said, well, I contacted the state and they gave me some kind of ambiguous answer, and I said, I just don't think that you need, our opinion is that because it was just sludge that, the fence could be removed and the area cleaned up. So I think he was just trying to make sure whatever he was doing was legitimate. But, I said, it's sludge, it's decomposed, and, it's not a health hazard at this point in time. So he had initiated a conversation with the state, but he never heard back from them. So I don't know if he's just going to be willing and comfortable to just pull up the fence, but that might be a discussion between him and Nicholas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is he aware of all the things that the city committed to for the grant, the URSA grant?
He is. I popped
Okay,
into
good.
his office, and
Thank you.
and he, is aware. I brought up
Good.
like that Bill had mentioned that there was actually a physical gate that we could use that he had stored someplace, and that we didn't have to include a purchase of a gate, and so he's aware of it.
Okay, good.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting, 6:57. I do need a second, and we do need to vote on it. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
you.
You
do have to run,
Take care,
so-
everybody.
Sorry
Bye.
for my
Cheers,
delayed
bye.
entry.
It's okay.
No worries. Take care.
All good.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Like sound singing.
Oh,
Jeanette.
thanks. Thank you.
All right. Bye.